Welcome back to our exploration of the England Rare Disease Action Plan. This week we are exploring Priority Area 1, which is people living with a rare disorder get a final diagnosis faster. Yesterday we looked at the process of newborn screening and how this will contribute to faster diagnosis for those living with rare disorders. The second action within this priority area is focused on whole genome sequencing. And the second action is to introduce whole genome sequencing to screen for genetic conditions in healthy newborns. Before we continue, I'd just like to pause here and say, for those of you who have noticed I keep looking off to the side, it's simply because I have some issues with my short-term memory and my notes are to the side of my phone. So if you notice me looking off in a different direction, I'm not being distracted, I'm just recapping my notes to keep me on track. So anyway, let's get back to it. So if you're anything like me, GCSE science, chemistry, biology was a long time ago and probably a very distant memory. And I think it's always really useful when we go through these kind of processes and these videos just to take a bit of a recap and do a bit of an explainer about what is whole genome sequencing. But I think in this particular instance it's important for us to take a step back even further and say what is a genome, because that will help us understand this entire process. So a genome contains a unique blueprint of information which is used to build and maintain our bodies. It's written in a chemical code called DNA, which you're probably very familiar with, and your genome is made up of segments of DNA called genes. Whole genome sequencing provides a readout of your entire DNA code, and that is a very complex and sophisticated process which involves reading 3 billion pairs of letters in a human genome. So a very complex process, as you can imagine. By sequencing a whole genome, scientists and researchers can look at the unique variations found in our genes. So some of these variations are completely harmless and have no impact on our health whatsoever. Some variations have an unknown or an uncertain impact on our health, and other variations produce known indicators of increased risk of having a certain condition or disorder, such as inherited metabolic disorder. So inherited metabolic disorders are caused by a unique variation in our genes, and the defective gene then goes on to produce something called an enzyme. The enzyme is coded and created incorrectly, and this leads to a deficiency in our bodies, which creates abnormal chemical reactions, which alters our overall metabolic process. Whole genome sequencing is therefore used to identify unique variations that are associated with specific inherited metabolic disorders. So, how will the introduction of whole genome sequencing to screen for genetic conditions in healthy newborns work in practice? Well, there are several organisations in the UK: Genomics England, NHS England and NHS Improvement. And these organisations are working together on a programme called the Newborn Genomes Programme. And this programme is a research pilot that is embedded into the NHS and will explore the benefits and the challenges and practicalities of offering whole genome sequencing to newborn babies. The aim is to sequence genomes of up to 200,000 babies for a set of genetic conditions where early intervention can prove positive. The benefits of the research pilot and the programme itself will be evaluated next year and will share some information on the progress of the Newborn Genomes Programme as and when it's available. You may have heard of something called the 100,000 Genomes Project, which MSUK and previously Climb shared some time ago. And effectively, the Newborn Genomes Programme is an expansion of the 100,000 Genomes Project, in which 190 rare conditions were screened, and this kickstarted the incorporation of genomic medicine into routine care in the NHS. So you may be wondering, why does this matter to people living with inherited metabolic disorders? What's going to be the impact? Well, the impact of whole genome sequencing is actually quite significant. It has the potential to revolutionise newborn screening. Our babies in the future could be tested for hundreds of rare conditions rather than the 6 that are currently on the newborn screening. It could reduce or bring an end to the complex and often lengthy diagnostic journeys we know many of you have been through. And it can also help our future generations with family planning and decision making. So by introducing whole genome sequencing and embedding it in the NHS, we can hope to see future patients diagnosed much faster and much more efficiently. Thanks for taking part in our second module of exploring whole genome sequencing in Priority Area 1. Join us tomorrow as we explore Priority Area 3, the National Genomic Test Directory. Thank you.